Welcome to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe, and this is a place where we don't rely on good luck or good genes for our health and happiness, but rather we create it with our thoughts and our actions each and every single day. Each week, I'll bring you a thought or a guest that will help you live your happiest and healthiest life. Are you ready? Welcome back to the Happier and Healthier podcast. I'm your host, Maria Marlowe, and today I'm joined by Mariza Snyder, a chiropractor and functional practitioner who's written 6 books on health. Today she's here to share tips from her latest book called The Essential Oils Hormone Solution. So on this episode, we talk about the various different factors that can throw our hormones out of whack. And of course, those include some of the big ones that I'm sure you guys already know: diet, lifestyle, toxins from our environment, and our cleaning supplies and beauty products. So she's going to share some tips on how we can help get our hormones back into balance by altering our diet, altering our lifestyle, definitely dealing with stress. That is a huge one. And then even incorporating essential oils into our daily routine in order to help with mitigating stress and therefore helping to balance our hormones. If you guys have any ideas for future episodes or future guests that you think I should check out, you can send me a direct message on Instagram at Maria Marlowe, and Marlowe is Marlowe, and you may just find your suggestion as an upcoming episode. Also, a huge thank you to everyone who has written a review for the podcast on iTunes or the podcast platform that you use to listen to this podcast. I wanted to shout out Kate. Every week I'm going to shout someone out. So I wanted to shout out Kate, which she has a few A's and I's and T's in her screen name. And she said exactly what I was looking for. I've been trying to find and gain some form of inspiration. I've been working out for 6 months now, and I've been getting discouraged with my slow progress. Along with that, I have anxiety and depression, and it's gotten so bad that I think it relates to how bad I have been feeling lately. I found this podcast, and it's been my first day in 2 weeks. I felt alive and happy. We'll definitely be listening to every episode. Thank you for all the information and inspiration I've received already. Well, thank you, Kate, for this amazing review. I'm rooting for you. I hope that your exercise and health and wellness journey is getting a little bit easier and easier each day, and I'm so happy to have you as a listener. If you love the podcast and want to support it, it takes less than a minute to write a review on iTunes or your podcast platform. And if you do, know I am extremely grateful for it. Before we get started, check out these brands that make the Happier and Healthier podcast possible. If you've set a goal for yourself to slim down or improve your health, and you need some help getting there, join me for Eat Slim, my 10-week online nutrition and cooking course. It's been repeatedly called life-changing by past participants as you finish the course having a better understanding and appreciation for your body. You'll learn how to tailor your diet to your unique body so that you wake up feeling energized, light, and vibrant. You'll conquer digestive issues, shed weight, get rid of sugar and junk food cravings, and learn how to cook and order healthy foods no matter what the situation. If you've been struggling to find a diet that helps you feel amazing every single day, sign up for Eat Slim at mariamarlowe.com/eat-slim. Past students have told me they got more out of this than working one-on-one with a nutritionist, and that I should be charging double and triple what I am for this course. But I really want to keep this accessible because I want as many people as possible to be able to do this program, so I've capped it at less than $30 a week. So if you're ready to get healthy for good, head to mariamarlowe.com/eat-slim to sign up. Dr. Mariza, thanks so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about hormones because I feel like I keep hearing so many people have issues with hormones and hormonal imbalances. So before we jump into that, though, I'm curious if you can share a little bit about your background and what got you so interested in focusing on hormones and hormonal imbalance.
Absolutely. Well, like so many practitioners, I was in it. My hormones hit the fan, about 10 years ago, maybe even 11 years ago. And it wasn't like it came to a halt about 10 or 11 years ago. I was having hormone problems before that. I just didn't know it was hormone problems. I remember asking my mom and my friends, like, is my being so tired normal? Or is my not being able to go to sleep so normal? Or is my cravings normal? And everything was normalized. Everything was like, oh my gosh, that's how women feel. That's how women act. That's how women are. And I was like, okay, well then I'm just going to keep doing me. And then I kept doing me until I remember one day my practice had been off the ground for about a year. I was putting my entire life, every single cell of my being was being put into my practice and taking care of my patients. And I had been sprinting even before that into the practice. And I remember one day waking up and I had probably gotten about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, what would be a normal amount of sleep. And I woke up and it literally felt like there was this heavy, invisible hand trying to shove me back into the bed. And I was like, what is going on? And I had this bubbling anxiety starting to fill my body. My mind began to race. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on with me? What's happening with me? And I remember thinking, like, how am I going to get up? How am I going to get to the bathroom? How am I going to get ready to go see my patients? Oh my gosh, how am I going to take care of my patients if I'm in this state? And I was in severe chronic fatigue. And I remember not knowing how to even deal with this level of chronic fatigue. I hadn't really seen it too much in my practice yet. A lot of my patients weren't at that level, not at the level that I felt like I was. And as I was looking in the mirror at myself, I literally felt like a shell of myself at that moment. And I had a good friend of mine who recommended me to a great endocrinologist. And sure enough, we ran the labs and, it was quite obvious. The labs basically said, you are a hormone hot mess, is basically what the lab said in a nutshell. And I remember this practitioner scripted me up with birth control and Xanax. And I remember looking at those prescriptions, and Xanax is anxiety medication for those who don't know. I remember looking at these prescriptions and I felt so disempowered, and I felt so do you know when you know that this isn't the solution for you? And I was just like, is this all that you've got for me? And I knew that I had to do my own work. I knew that I was going to have to figure this out for myself. And luckily, before I went back to school, I was a biochemist for many years. And the only reason why I was a good biochemist was because I've always been a bulldog for research. I've always been a great investigator. So I knew that in that moment that I could probably figure this out. And number two, the other thing that I realized is that I wasn't unique. I knew that there were millions of other people dealing with this. I knew that other people were being given these crappy solutions that weren't actually going to get to the root cause of what was going on, and that I was going to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. And so for the last 10 years, this has been my life's work. It is the mission that's a non-negotiable. It's the thing that gets me up every single day.
Yeah, I find that for many practitioners in the health and wellness space, we typically get into it because we dealt with that problem ourselves. So I find that when that happens, it's actually a great thing because you really better understand all of the issues that someone with a hormonal imbalance is going through because you've experienced it firsthand. So that's wonderful. Now, what's not wonderful is that so many people are dealing with hormonal issues. So I
Yes.
feel like, it seems like every third person has PCOS or PMS or a thyroid issue or some sort of hormonal issue. So is it just me, or are these hormonal issues or imbalances on the rise? And if so, why do you think that this is the case?
Absolutely. It's such a great question. I was just working with a woman yesterday who, symptoms of fatigue and weight resistance and brain fog. And sure enough, it was pointing to her thyroid. And she went misdiagnosed for a good 5 to 7 years before we finally landed on what was really going on. And the thing is that hormones are simply chemical messengers, and they are mediating conversations on every single cell in the body. And these conversations are happening every single millisecond, right? That are continuing to happen. And one of the things that we realize is that when we are dealing with stressors, whether they're chemical or physical or emotional, whatever they may be, it could be a trifecta of multiple stressors that are happening. I call these root causes. When they begin to happen, I feel like the first type of thing that throws up the white flag is going to be our hormone system. So we're going to begin to experience things like anxiousness, insomnia, fatigue, brain fog, gut issues, even weight resistance. Those are the types of things that we began to see. So I often find that hormones are always involved to some capacity when we're struggling. And the thing of it is that our hormone systems are really downstream of what's going on because something's causing the hormones to do that. There's a quote that I read a couple months ago that says, if your flower isn't blooming, you're not trying to fix the flower. You're actually trying to fix the environment around it. And the same thing, whether it's our ovaries or it's our thyroid or it's our adrenals, it's usually not those endocrine systems, those endocrine glands that we need to fix. It's what's causing the problem around those endocrine glands that we need to look at. So it's not like the thyroid, and not that there isn't cases where your thyroid function is something's not right with those cells, but usually something is causing it. There's a bigger picture that's causing the thyroid to create dysfunction.
For sure. Yeah, no, of course. And that's something that I always talk about and tell people is that when we have any sort of symptom, whether it is fatigue or a rash or a migraine or whatever it is, our body is not just like, oh, hey, why don't I give you a migraine today? Or why don't I give you a rash? It's something is triggering it and something is causing it. So we need to figure out what's going on internally or what's going on in our environment that could be causing that issue. So I'm definitely on board with you there. So what are some of the things that could cause our hormones to become imbalanced, like the things in our environment and our life?
Absolutely. I think the big one, I know the big one for me. If there was a little fire, I was dumping a very specific type of gasoline on my fire, and that was stress. And I'm talking specifically about perceived stress. And as fast as the world is working today, just today's a great example of this. I was living in this moment. I was in a 2-day intensive training for the last couple of days, Monday and Tuesday, from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And in those days, I couldn't look at my phone. I couldn't look at email. Like we were very focused. We were very present in it. So I knew that today I have 5 podcast interviews in a row. And so, but I also have other assignments, like the girl at work I got to do after the podcasts. And so I'm trying to get some of that work done earlier this morning before I get into the podcast. It's like literally one after an hour for 5 hours. And one of my dear friends who is working with me and coaching me on something, she is blowing me up. Every text message is, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And all of a sudden I start to feel overwhelmed because her text messages, she's just sending me tasks every single text message and the phone keeps buzzing. And we've all been there, right? Where you are already locked and loaded with what your day needs to look like. You already know what your highest priorities are. And then some other perceived stressor comes into play and it just knocks down all the dominoes. And at the same time, my husband is shouting at me from the room, what do I need from Whole Foods? And I'm just like, if one more person asks me one more thing, I swear to goodness, I'm about to crack, And so stress is one of them. And I think that particular little example is an example that every one of us can relate to probably multiple times a day. And if you look at the research, we know that we go into sympathetic dominance, basically that kind of overwhelm mode inside of the system 50 plus times a day on average. 50 plus times. So that's a big one. And I call that just constantly adding fuel to that inflammatory fire that's driving those hormonal issues. The other ones are a little bit more hidden. And we got to kind of go and investigate. It's going to be stealth infections, so parasites, viruses, candida, maybe driving that skin rash that you mentioned. Maybe it's mold. It's, figuring out if there's a stealth infection going on, endocrine disruptors, so toxins, whether it's plastics, whether it's heavy metals, that's a whole different category I find. Trauma, so emotional trauma that you had dealt with or haven't dealt with, but that keeps kind of bubbling up to the surface. And then nutrient deficiencies, which I find are created by a lot of those other root causes. But we know that we don't have the right building blocks in the body. Your cells cannot function at their highest capacity. And that can lend to a triggering of either we're not making enough hormones, we're not converting hormones, or we're not metabolizing the bad hormones after we've leveraged them and used them. So I would say that on average, those are kind of the biggest root causes that I personally see.
Yeah. And, we talk about all of these root causes in a lot of these episodes on the podcast because I
Oh,
find
yeah.
that they're not just cause for hormonal imbalances, but all sorts of
Everything.
different imbalances.
Everything,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Diabetes, cardiovascular disease, gut dysbiosis, skin rashes, brain
Right.
fog. In some, oh yeah, girl, no, yeah, it's
For
all a part of the
sure.
mesh of it all. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like stress is one that I really tried to drive home to people because I think it's the one that may or may not be the most detrimental to our health, but it's also the one that we tend to minimize, right? Like we tend to pretend like we can deal with stress, or we are so proud of ourselves for all of the things that we can deal with and all the stress that we can manage, but meanwhile we think because we're waking up and going through our day that we're managing our stress, but actually internally all these things are going on inside that are telling you, no, you're not actually dealing with your stress very well, and it's creating havoc inside your body. So, yeah, I think stress is really a big one. Nutrition, of course, for sure,
Oh
our
yeah.
environment, the chemicals. So, we mentioned some of the causes, and you mentioned earlier a few of the different symptoms that would show that you may have a hormonal imbalance. But can you speak a little bit more about that? Because again, I feel like there's this issue when people don't realize that they might have an issue. They think that being tired is just they're a tired person, or having, certain PMS symptoms, right? Or having cravings. Like they think, oh, that's just who I am, not realizing that that could actually be a sign of something else. So what are some of the signs of a hormonal imbalance?
Absolutely. And you know what? You hit it so poignantly when you talked about how so often we think that we're managing stress in a really great way. And I was living this life for so long. I thought as long as I wasn't on the floor crawling, that I was killing it. Until I was on the ground crawling. And then I was like, maybe not all those years. I was not killing it at all. And I think, I'm so glad that you doubled down on having that conversation. We cannot have that conversation enough, right? Stress and to me, as a hormone practitioner, as a chemist, as someone who understands the physiology, I'm still a girl. I'm still a woman who has a lot on her plate, is a wife, is a friend, is a practitioner to her entire family, right? And so, things come up all the time, and it's a daily practice. But symptoms that you should be looking out for, and clearly, specifically, there are specific hormones we can connect with. But if you're dealing with painful periods, a painful menstrual cycle, if you've got severe PMS like symptoms, you get anxious, heavy cravings, irritable mood swings, you feel really low energy before your period, those are warning signs. Your body is trying to tell you something isn't right going on there, and that there's maybe some type of inflammation that's impacting those reproductive hormones. When we're thinking about the thyroid, I always talk about the big three upstream hormones, which is thyroid, cortisol, and insulin, because they have such a profound effect on each other, but they also have such a profound effect on the rest of the hormones in the body. And so when you start to think that you're not recalling information, or you walk into a room and don't know why, or you are in the middle of a sentence and all of a sudden the word just flew away, right? That brain fog. Or if you feel like you're crashing, your energy is crashing at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you have to reach for caffeine or candy, that's definitely a symptom of something not being right in the body. You wake up tired, you go to bed exhausted, or maybe you go to bed and your mind is racing because you're trying to solve, tomorrow's problems or the world's problems. And you call that mental chatter. Maybe you are dealing with thinning hair or dry skin or a sluggish digestive system. Maybe it's even constipation, not normal at all, right? Maybe it's weight resistance that you're all of a sudden, no matter how hard you work out, no matter how much you limit your calorie intake, you're putting on weight for some reason, right? It's not lifestyle there. It's definitely something going on with the hormones, right? Usually your thyroid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a great point you bring up. Like, I think most women just blame themselves. They're like, oh, when they start gaining weight and they're blaming like, oh, maybe I'm not restricting my calories enough. Maybe I'm not exercising enough. Meanwhile, they're running, 5 miles a day or something. So I feel like women tend to internalize and blame themselves when their body goes a little bit out of whack, but it's really not the case. And in fact, I always like to tell people that when our body does get out of balance and we are experiencing these issues, we should really be very grateful because it's our body's way of telling us, hey, so you need to slow down. You need to look at this area of your life and you need to change some things to get back into balance.
absolutely. I mean, I think I always talk about that first step is self-awareness. And, just kind of listening to our bodies, checking in with our bodies, asking our bodies, what do you need? What isn't serving me today? What will serve me today? But then, when we're not feeling well, and I know it's so easy to say, don't blame yourself, don't feel shame around it. But we have been trained in this culture that, at least for women, that we should hold on to a lot of blame and shame. Last summer I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition that affects the thyroid. And I was right at the time that this book, my newest book, The Essential Oils Hormone Solution, was coming out. And I remember getting the results back and I can't tell you how much shame and blame I was feeling, because here I am, this hormone expert. And I'm like, how did this happen? How did this happen to me of all people? And I sat on it for so long. I didn't share it with people. I didn't talk about it. It was like this dirty hidden secret that I was holding on to because I didn't think that I deserved healing. I had done this to myself. And so often we have this tendency, as you talked about, of feeling this guilt and the shame around our healing journey and that we don't deserve to get well. And, I think all of us have been in that point. And one of the things I talk about so much on my podcast and in the book is that that first step is mindset. That first step is either writing it down or journaling it or just connecting with yourself and saying to yourself that I deserve healing, that my body is ripe for healing miracles. Because if we don't get into the state, you think about our thoughts and how powerful they are. If we don't get into that state where we believe that we deserve it, I mean, our cells are listening, our body's listening. And let's be honest, healing is cellular. So I know how difficult that can be. And it really is just a matter of figuring out where that may be coming from, kind of getting to the root cause of where we're holding on to some of those disempowering beliefs. I think that's that first step. And once we get to that first step, then we can start to uncover and unpack, where the problem is, opposed to continuing to beat ourselves up by over exercising or over restricting, because we find that sometimes, especially when it's tied to feeling of unworthiness, it really has negative repercussions. And my
Yes.
goodness, I know it. I've been there. I've been in that space. And I'm like, and you just want to be well,
Right.
and you're not setting yourself up for success there.
For sure. I always say you can't beat your body into submission. If you're
No,
trying to get healthy because you hate yourself or, you feel like you're basically trying to beat your body or deprive your body to reach some state, it's never going to happen. It's only when you decide that you are on the same side as your body, you love your body and you want to nourish your body, then that's when your body will actually heal and start going in the direction that you want it to.
that's number one. That is step one. And I'll be honest with you, it can be the hardest step sometimes,
For sure. Of
learning
course,
to love our bodies.
our mental steps are usually the hardest steps. The physical ones, we can get around to those, but it's the changing our mindset that is often the most tricky one. But once we do it, it's like the floodgates open and everything else becomes so much easier.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty, is that we're all perfect. We're all maybe imperfectly perfect, but we all are perfect. And our bodies are really just trying to do the best that they can. They really are. Your hormones, their number one job is to navigate what you're doing every day. If you're running this way, they're running this way. You're going this way, they're going this way. They're just really trying to keep up with what you've got going on. They're doing their best. Your body wants to be back to homeostasis, back to that beautiful Goldilocks place. And it's really that mindset of that first step. And then I think the next step really And I think this is something we don't explore enough of, but not only realizing that we deserve it, but also starting to put the practices in place to show ourselves that we deserve it. So self-care, I think, is one of those non-negotiables. And I'm not talking about bubble baths and going to the hair salon or whatever people think self-care is. It's the everyday things that you do to nourish your body that's self-care. Before I got on this episode, or we got on this interview, I went and fueled my body because it's kind of, I do a little bit of intermittent fasting, and I took my supplements and I grabbed a glass of lemon water. I had these little things that I did, and it took me 15 minutes to kind of put all those things into place before I came on over to here. But that is a part of my self-care routine. It's built into my life so that every step of the way throughout the day, I'm doing those components to nourish my body.
Yes. And one of the things I love about your book is that in each chapter, or many of the chapters, you have different self-care rituals or morning rituals, PM rituals that can help us get in that space of really taking care of and nourishing ourselves. But again, not in like a frivolous way, but really getting in tune with ourselves and really nourishing ourselves. So we talked about stress a little bit earlier, and that's probably one of the biggest issues for most of the people listening on this podcast. So what are some of the rituals that you incorporate into your daily life or that you recommend that can help us deal with stress a little bit better?
Absolutely. Well, I think the first step is having a morning ritual. And here's the thing, and this is from a girl who chronically stress ruled her world. And if I'm not careful, it comes right back in. It's what protects me from that is having these rituals in place. And that's the reason why, when you find that something works for you, especially when you're type A crazed kind of person, because I'm not going to pretend like I'm not. You can't write 7 books in 9 years, unless there's something else going on there. So this was the big game change for me. And the reason why you'll see oils in this book as well, essential oils, is that there was like my life before oils and my life after oils, because essential oils, I relish in them. They're beautiful. They smell amazing. Their chemistry is powerful, especially for our mental and emotional well-being. And so I just leverage essential oils with a lot of my rituals. And I find that when I tag team them together, the results are exponential. And I just think also that we deserve to relish in our wellness. We deserve to relish in our self-care. I know this whole idea of taking care of our bodies seems I remember growing up, I used to think that healing was supposed to be a torturous process, was never supposed to be fun. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s when I was on this journey that I was like, oh my gosh, I can really love to do this. Because let's be honest, if you don't love it, it's not sustainable. No one wants to do something they don't love.
Right.
Nobody. So I have a morning ritual, and I'll tell you what, people were trying to get into my morning ritual today. They were trying to encroach on my morning ritual, and I was like, back up, back up off of my rituals. So I start my morning with a citrus essential oil. Usually it's wild orange or grapefruit or tangerine. And not only do citruses boost happy neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, but they're energizer bunnies. And I don't know about you, but I want to wake up with that yummy, happy energizer bunny type of feeling. I just want to get up and start my day and have it feel good. And just literally breathing in a little oil like that, it's always by the bedside. It just sets the tone. Next, I love, I take a shower every morning. And I have a little spritzer in my shower. It's like my little awake blend. And it's like a combination of rosemary, peppermint, and frankincense, something like that. And I just spritz it around. And it just feels like this decadent self-care moment where I can do some conscious deep breathing. It takes me literally 5 seconds to do this. And I love how some of these things can be so simple, yet so impactful. That just sets the tone, gets my brain working. Rosemary boosts working memory by up to 70%. And I don't know about you, but I could use always a little extra brain power. I do 16 ounces of water with lemon. I do my green smoothie with my supplements. I do my gratitude journal every day. And then I move my body at some capacity. Either I walk my hill, I do yoga. I just want to fire off the spiritual, the mental, and the physical, right? And nourish my body. So usually all that takes me, because I like efficiency, I'm not going to lie, about 35 minutes, give or take.
I love that. And I love that it's also a non-negotiable. And you mentioned how some people were trying to encroach on your me time this morning, but you were like, back up, and you had to do it. Because, some of us, we always have the intention to do a morning practice, but then it's like one phone call, one email, one, person asking us something, and it all goes out the window. So I love that it's a non-negotiable. And I do think it's really important that we do make our morning practice and even an evening practice non-negotiable, because that's the only way we're going to really see the benefits of it is when we do it every single day. So I love
It's
that. And
true.
thank you for sharing.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And it's consistency. And guess what? You deserve to bookend your day and your night on your time. Gosh, if we don't have time for ourselves, something is not right. And I used to tell myself, I don't have time for myself. But that's selfish. I don't have time for any of that. That's a luxury. And it was so disempowering. No wonder I landed on the floor. No wonder I found myself crawling to get ready every single day, for several months. And that's just, we don't deserve that. We deserve time for ourselves to recharge and reset, especially at night. I remember I used to Tasmanian devil myself into bed every night and wonder why I couldn't go to sleep. Wondered why my brain was racing a mile a minute. I was running. I mean, I was literally hopping into bed.
I love that Tasmanian devil yourself into bed. That's a good one. And I think
Run into bed.
I think we all can envision and probably have done that ourselves as well. So yeah, I definitely think carving out a morning practice and even an evening practice, if you could do both, that's great, or at least one, but definitely adding that into your daily routine will help you just feel more calm and centered. And I think starts your day off on a great note and will also end your day on a more peaceful note as well. So
Well,
really
yeah,
important.
absolutely. We
But
know how
now,
important sleep is. Oh, go on. Yeah.
yeah. So now let's kind of get back to the hormones.
Yeah.
And once someone's diagnosed with a hormonal imbalance, whatever it may be, oftentimes the traditional route is to treat that hormonal imbalance by taking hormones, right? So, for example, hormonal acne, often they'll prescribe birth control, right? So, you talk about a little bit in the book why maybe we don't need to treat hormonal imbalances with hormones. So, can you speak a little bit about that and why essential oils are an effective way to help balance our hormones?
Absolutely. I am Ooh, it would just boils my blood when we are treating women's hormone issues with birth control, because birth control doesn't treat anything. It doesn't treat anything. It is just a mask of symptoms. You're just shutting down the hormone system. Also, even for women in perimenopause and menopause, bioidenticals don't always serve, right? What if it isn't that we need more hormones? What if it's that the cell receptivity is the problem? What if that the receptors are being blocked? Maybe that's the issue. Or what if it's inflammation that's driving the hormone chaos, whatever you want to call it? It's very negligent of us to go in and just slather hormones on the problem. Now, that's not to say, I do want to give a caveat. When I got diagnosed with hypothyroid and Hashimoto's, I did go on thyroid medication because we needed to step up my metabolism. I mean, everything was sluggish. But I knew that medication wasn't going to solve my thyroid problem. It wasn't the medication that was going to solve it. There was something driving my hypothyroid problem. And we had to figure out what that was. And that was the first thing that we started to do. So I don't know why or how we got into this system where we are just prescribing hormones like it's candy. I don't get it. I don't know why we're not investigating what the root causes are. And it's heartbreaking to see women who get put on thyroid medications, or they put on birth control, or they're put on a bunch of estrogen and progesterone, and about 3 months later they're back to square one, or they feel even worse, and it's
Yeah.
because we never got to the root cause of that. Also, I want to put on a caveat and tell people that essential oils are not hormones. So they're not also going to go in and clean up shop like that. I really leverage essential oils a lot for helping for lifestyle techniques. Not to say that essential oils can't be used to help support brain function, or can't be used to help detox the liver, or can't be used to help clean up cell receptors. They absolutely can. But I think the first step in foundational, and this is where I want to live in a high level of integrity, is that first step is nutrition. If we can clear up the nutrition piece, then it makes it easier for us to discover what is really going on behind the scenes, because nutrition can clear up about 70 to 80% of everything. And once we can clear those things out, then we can really begin to see, okay, we can start to eliminate what maybe the root cause is. Where I think oils really step into play is the stress component, is the brain fog component, is the cravings component, is the even menstrual cramps. I mean, you can use oils specifically for PMS, but their essential oils aren't going to cure that hormone issue. They're just really acting as a really natural aid to
Right.
managing some of that while we're getting through the muck.
Right. And I often tell people with PMS, for example, first of all, a lot of times people think PMS is just normal. And I know when I was growing up, I literally thought like, okay, when you get your period, you get cramps, you get all these other PMS symptoms and you
Right.
take Vital. Like that's just,
Yeah.
I just thought that was part of being a woman or a female. But lo and behold, that's not actually the
No,
case. And our periods are not supposed to be painful. I had
no.
another episode with Elisa Vitti, who is the period queen, I call her. And we talked about that a little bit. But so really the first step for sure 100% is changing your diet, because very often those PMS symptoms can actually just be coming from certain nutrient deficiencies. So once we
Absolutely.
take out the inflammatory foods and we add in these nutritious foods that are giving our body what it needs, you may find you don't even need the essential oil for the PMS cramps because you don't have the cramps anymore because you dealt with the underlying cause of it. So nutrition is really important. And you also talk about there's 4 other pillars that you say should really be used in conjunction to create a healthy lifestyle that's going to support healthy hormones and, of course, a healthy body overall.
Absolutely. So I talk about my 5 pillars, and pillar number 1, no surprise, is nutrition. If let's just take PMS, for example, what is going on there just really quickly, right? We usually basically with PMS, we've got a situation where most likely we've got relative to progesterone, estrogen is dominating, and we don't have enough progesterone in that luteal phase as we head into our menstrual cycle. And I mean, clearly those hormones are what's going on right there. But we look at the surface of that, we look upstream to that. It's a combination of nutrient deficiencies and it's a combination of inflammation, right? And those are the things that we need to look at. So by giving someone progesterone or by giving someone birth control, we don't solve that problem at all. We've got to look to see, do we need to manage our nutrients? Do we need to look at nutrients? And do we need to manage inflammation? Is dairy, gluten, grains, alcohol, sugar, are those things in the gut microbiome actually causing that inflammatory impact that's happening on our reproductive system? So that's the first thing that we got to look at. And that's why I always say nutrition, because if we can clear out that inflammation and bring back the right nutrients into play, we can then begin to rule things out very, very quickly. And the results are very fast. Number 2 is moving our bodies. You can call it exercise. I like to call it movement because movement is life. But figure out what's right for you. I have definitely over exercised myself into the ground. I have over exercised myself into stress, because exercise is a stressor. Working out's a stressor. Fasting's a stressor. A lot of things are stressing the system. So we just have to be really mindful and just listen to your body. Not every day is going to be a HIIT training body. Not every day is going to be Soul Cycle. Some days your body just wants to hike or walk or do yoga, right? Or just you need a break in general. So kind of figuring that out. Number 3, no surprise, stress management. I think that stress is fueling a lot of what's going on. And number 4 is going to be reducing your toxic load, because as you can imagine, when you've got a toxic buildup, you've got that bucket filling up, we're going to be creating inflammation. Our hormones have an impact there. And then number 5 is going to be the self-care rituals, because it really is those daily, consistent, self-loving, nourishing rituals that are going to be the game change. And I think that to me, they're non-negotiable. They're the thing that creates ease and grace and love when we're beginning to heal our body.
For sure. Yeah. And I would agree wholeheartedly. I think all 5 of those pillars are what we need to create a solid foundation for our health and for our life even. So I definitely agree with you there. And now I'd love to actually bring in the essential oil piece, which I feel like is the fun piece.
It is.
I love essential oils and I've been using them for seemingly, well, I guess not forever, but probably for the past decade or so. Especially I started with tea tree oil, which was great. I used to have acne, and that was really great for acne. And I realized it's great for a lot of things. And a lot of essential oils are great for a lot of things. So I'd love to kind of talk about, in the book, you break down different hormonal symptoms and then different essential oils that are good for each. So I'd love to go through a few of those, starting with weight and cravings. And I guess let's start off with, how are weight and cravings associated with our hormones? And then what are some of the essential oils that could help?
Absolutely. Well, let's start with, oh my gosh, those are two big questions. I'm going to quickly unpack, I promise. Okay, so cravings. So cravings are what I think of as an unmet need. Usually cravings are being driven by exhaustion, driven by stress, driven by kind of those, if we're having an emotional concern or issue, I find that that's when we start to have cravings. But the mechanism of cravings is when it's really driven by stress at the end of the day. Cortisol is the hormone that we release because of long-term stress. Cortisol, a lot of people don't know, but it's an insulin regulator. And so when cortisol spikes, which it can do 50 times a day, insulin has to spike because we need glycogen stores from the liver into our muscles just in case we're being chased by a tiger. And I know we're not being chased by a tiger, but your body doesn't. It just doesn't know. And as women in particular, we're hardwired to make babies. We all know that. We're the ones who bring life into the world. And your body knows that. Your physiology knows that. And so when we go into that stress mode on accident because we get the text message or we're running late to a meeting or whatever it may be, your cortisol as a survival mechanism goes into the brain and goes into the rational thinking, problem solving part of the brain, the decision part. And that is your prefrontal cortex. And it sabotages your prefrontal cortex so that you are craving, you are hungry, even when you're not. It is this survival mechanism that kicks in because you received a crazy text message. So with cravings, they're going to pop out of nowhere, really, unless we kind of get to that root cause, which is managing stress. But in those moments, there's an oil blend that I absolutely love that literally will win the stare down contest with the cupcake, especially the cupcake that you have said no to 20 times that day until 4:00 in the afternoon, because that's when your willpower is being sabotaged at that moment. Two oils, so easy. It could be peppermint and lemon, peppermint and wild orange, a mint, and a citrus. Now, peppermint has been studied in the Journal of Neurology to actually reduce cravings, and it can act as an appetite suppressant as well, but reduce cravings by like 90%. And then grapefruit has also been shown that as well. And so I have a little roller. It's about 8 drops of each. Top it off with a carrier oil like jojoba oil or grapeseed oil, whatever you prefer. You roll it over your palms when you feel that craving, when you're about to walk into the kitchen and open those refrigerator doors and just stare into the refrigerator looking for something. That's when you want to grab that blend, roll it on your palms. You breathe it in about 3 to 5 deep belly breaths, and it will literally shut down the craving experience. It'll literally shut down that prefrontal cortex or the limbic brain that's kicking in to have you want something. And it'll give you time to just step away from the refrigerator. And I have been using this technique with, I can't even tell you, tens of thousands of women with such great success. I have that blend with me every day. And what's so great is it's knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. So not only are you getting rid of the craving, but peppermint and grapefruit are also energy boosters and brain function boosters. So it kind of just knocks out multiple birds with 1 stone.
That's so great. You get to knock out the cravings, and then you also get to boost your mood and boost your brain a little bit in the middle of the day. So that's a great tip.
Yeah, because usually that's the reason why we want the thing, right? Our brain doesn't work anymore. And so it just kind of takes care of both of those things at once. Yeah.
Right. A quick break from this episode to share with you an amazing opportunity. Are you interested in turning your passion for health and wellness into a career that helps hundreds, thousands, or even millions of people live healthier? If so, consider becoming a holistic health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, the original and top health coach certification program. I studied there in 2012, and it completely changed my career path and life. I went from an uninspiring job in finance to an exciting, fulfilling, and rewarding career as a full-time health coach. The program is offered as a 1-year or accelerated 6-month course, and it teaches you a mix of nutrition, coaching, and business. They have some of the top teachers, including Dr. Walter Willett, who was the chair of Harvard's nutrition department for 26 years, Dr. Marion Nestle, a professor at NYU and author of one of my favorite books, Food Politics, Dr. Mark Hyman, who is the medical director at the Cleveland Clinic's Center for Functional Medicine, Dr. Andrew Weil, Deepak Chopra, Gabby Bernstein, and so many more. Millions of people are suffering from diet-related illnesses, and I truly believe the world needs more health coaches. That's why I've teamed up with IIN to offer an incredible opportunity to make studying there even easier. You'll get $1,500 off tuition, plus one-on-one mentoring with me, plus you'll be added to my private Facebook mentorship group where you can connect with other students and grads and also practice with them. To get your 3 bonuses, simply email me at maria@mariamarlowe.com. That's MariaMarlowe.com with the subject IIN, and I'll personally send you back the email that will allow you to get all of these amazing bonuses. If you feel called to explore or start a career in health and wellness, definitely reach out. And what about for anxiety and depression? I know that's something I feel like a lot of women are sometimes struggling with at different points in their life. So what is the relation with hormones, and then what essential oils can we use to help with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think anxiety can come on from a lot of different things. Again, a piling up of a lot of circumstances in our life can feel anxious. As we move into our menstrual cycle with the plummeting of estrogen and progesterone, our anxiety will go higher. A lot of women will report feeling depressed and anxious right before our menstrual cycle, kind of during PMS. And then also, if we've got gut issues, that gut brain connection is so important because 90% of serotonin is actually created in the gut. And so that could be leading to it as well. And as you can imagine, all 3 could be playing a role all at once. And so I love oils for managing anxiousness. Now, mind you, meditation and deep belly breaths, there's a lot of different ways that we can manage anxiousness. I just find that when we pair oils together, like I had a woman reach out to me yesterday, and she was telling me that her anxiety had been at an all-time high last summer. And she used kind of my Anxiety Be Gone blend with tapping to get her panic attacks under control. And she's like, that was the power combo. And it could be tapping, it could be breathing, it could be meditation. But I think when you combine oils with it, that you really have a powerful solution at your fingertips. And what makes oils so great is that they're so inexpensive and they're so easy to use. And I think that's why I've always fallen in love with them, is that if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling like I'm revving up, my heart's beating really fast, like I was in a room yesterday with some big players. Jack Canfield was in the room and it was a group of 15 of us, and we were learning how to speak at a really high level. And I had to go up and do a 3-minute story where I was going to get reviewed by everyone in the room, including Jack Canfield and some other really big people. And it was nerve-wracking. Like, I was really nervous that I was going to fail miserably on my face. So luckily I have my oils on me at all times. I had my anxiety blend on me, and I started just literally dousing myself in this oil. And I'm going to share the blend with you right now. And it was so incredible. I went from a state of like almost panic and I normally don't get nervous on stage, but this was a group of high level players. These were all massive keynote speakers, huge game changers in the world. And I just felt like, you ever been in a room where you feel like you don't belong in that room? Like, you're like, how did I end up in this room? Well, that was that room yesterday. So I grabbed this blend, and it's just 3 oils. And I just thought that's why I love and make it so simple. So in a 10 ml roller, and you can get these on Amazon, you can get these anywhere, it was 8 drops of lavender, 7 drops of cedarwood, and 5 drops of vetiver. Now, if you don't have vetiver, no worries. It's kind of one of the more exotic oils. I would swap out vetiver for bergamot. And that's a beautiful citrus oil, and it's the oil of self-love and self-acceptance. But this particular blend was lavender, cedarwood, and vetiver. And that trio literally lowers, I mean, it will take away and banish that anxiety in a matter of seconds. They are powerful sedative like oils. I mean, it calms the brain in a matter of seconds. So I just rolled it over my palms. I put it on my wrist, took 3 to 5 deep belly breaths, and then went up on that stage and did my thing. So
And how'd you do?
I did good. I did, you know what? The one thing that I didn't do is for some reason, and usually I'm great at this, I know how to walk on the stage, I know how to do all that. But for some reason in that 3 minutes, I did not move my feet once.
Well, you know what? It's better than walking around and, having a nervous walk. So,
The nervous pace, right?
yeah.
Where you just,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, lesson learned, but I'm sure you did well. And it's just so amazing, though, how scents can actually affect our mood. And we know it's the case, right? And we know we associate them with memories, and smells are actually really powerful. I think like perfume, like it can't really affect you. Like, oh, maybe it smells good or something smells bad, but it's not going to really affect you. But that's actually not true. Just simply inhaling and breathing in the essential oils can have a specific effect, like a physical effect on the body. So could you just take a moment to share a little bit about why that's the case? How is that we can inhale the scent of an essential oil and how it's going to affect us on a physical level?
Absolutely. So every oil is initially a plant, right? We think of, and these plants come from all over the world. And we're just leveraging these powerful secondary metabolites, these chemical constituents, because ultimately that aroma is a chemical. It's actually a constituent. It's an organic chemical. And our bodies have been, we think about our relationship with plants and how plants are some of the most powerful healing modalities that we can leverage. And that's really all we're leveraging. We're leveraging the power of these plants. And what we know about these chemical constituents, depending on the plant that you're using, whether it's a citrus or it's a floral or it's a grounding oil like frankincense, we know that those chemical constituents are going to go into the body systemically. You breathe in those oils, like it or not, they're going to go do their magic. And our body is so receptive to that chemistry on a physiological level, on a cellular level, that we actually can break apart those chemical constituents and bind to them our own chemistry, whatever, if it's a neurotransmitter or if it is a ligand, whatever it may be. Because I always think about emotions. Emotions are literally molecules in the body. And these our molecules of emotion can actually bind to these essential oil chemical constituents for our own benefit. I mean, the physiology and the chemistry of it is so fascinating to me. But let's just say we're breathing in the citrus oils. Let's just say that. And let's just take one little chemical constituent, let's say limonene, and we breathe that in. We know that our sense of smell is the most powerful scent that we have, our sense, because it is directly connected to our sense of survival. It has a no holds bar to our limbic system. And that limbic part of our brain is our survival brain. It's where we house our amygdala, a hippocampus, our hypothalamus, and that is memory. That is emotion, that is hormones. That's our hormone master control center. It's like NASA, right? That's where we're holding it for like the space program. So when we breathe in this oil, it has a profound impact on all of those different structures, on all of those neurons and all of those cells. And it can actually elicit a really powerful neurochemical experience. But also, it shifts the way our hormones are working at the hypothalamus and pituitary level. So it can elicit changes from the brain to receiving messages into our endocrine system, our endocrine glands. So that's why when you breathe in an essential oil for stress, like let's take lavender and bergamot, one of my favorite stress combinations, you can literally go from a heightened state of survival mode to a parasympathetic rest and digest mode by simply breathing in those two oils together.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I actually just took a course recently on essential oils and how they work in the body and all that. And it's really fascinating just how quick and effective they are, and how either smelling them or putting them on our skin, diluted, in a carrier oil, diffusing them in the air, like all of these methods, which seem like they might not have an effect, but they actually have a very profound effect on our body. So yeah, it's just completely fascinating. I'm curious if for anyone listening, I know I had posted about essential oils on my Instagram story recently and asking people what questions they have. And some people are familiar with them. I think a lot of people might have one or two, but definitely not an extensive array. If someone is dealing with some hormonal imbalances and wants to add some essential oils just to their repertoire and toolkit, what would maybe be the top 3 or 5 that you would recommend just in general?
Absolutely. So, especially for women we're still having our period and we're still having that menstrual cycle, my top five, one is going to be lavender. Lavender, because it is a jack of all trades. It's like a Swiss Army knife from sleep to stress to, skin issues. I mean, lavender is such a powerful oil. I just love it. And it's a natural analgesic, which is phenomenal for menstrual cramps, for stomach cramps, for muscle cramps, and it deals with histamine as well. So it's kind of an antihistamine, because histamine can really make us sluggish and low energy as well. So I love lavender. Next is peppermint. Peppermint for cravings, for headaches, for digestive, for respiratory, for mitochondrial function, for brain fog. Peppermint is a no-brainer. Next would be clary sage, because I call clary sage the Beyonce of hormone essential oils. Not only is it great for stress and for sleep and for anxiety, but it's also a natural analgesic as well. And it has been studied to help balance estrogen and progesterone. So I do love clary sage in that realm. Number 4 would be a citrus oil of some kind, whether it's lemon or orange or tangerine or grapefruit. Citrus oils are powerful detoxifiers and cleansers. Citrus oils are great for the liver and for our detox pathways. And citrus oils, as we've mentioned here, are great for boosting happy neurotransmitters. And I think everyone deserves a little dose of happiness. And then the last one that I would choose is going to be, I'm torn between geranium and rosemary, but I'm going to go with geranium. And I'll be honest with you, geranium is a very powerful oil. And it doesn't always agree with everybody because it has such a powerful scent. But geranium is great for PCOS, great for endometriosis, great for hormonal acne. So I love that queen essential oil. It's great for liver support and adrenal support. So she kind of just hits all of the points for women's hormones. And I incorporate geranium in so many of my hormone blends inside of the book.
I love that. And yeah, and I mean, one thing I noticed with essential oils is that many of them are multi-purpose, multi-use. I mean, all of them have multiple different benefits. So yeah, and sometimes you don't need 100 different oils or 20 different oils. Just having a few that are multi-purpose is really all you need. So that's awesome.
Yes. Well, you think about that 5, like I can make a sleep blend with that 5. I can make a cravings blend with that 5. I can make an energy blend with that 5. I can make a PMS and endometriosis blend with that 5. And so like you think about all the types of combinations you can do with those 5 oils. I mean, it's endless really. And as long as you've got a good book or a guide that can kind of guide you with those blends, you're really set with those. Yeah, you don't need a ton of oils. That's not to say that I don't have 100 plus essential oils, but
I know I probably have 30 sitting on my counter right now, but you don't need
do
to
not need
have
that
30.
many.
You just need really a couple. And just one thing I want to say, like, be very careful with essential oils if you're not used to them. Some of them, very few, you can put on your skin direct, but most of them you can't. So you always want to dilute them. So just make sure that if you are going to start using essential oils, that you do get a good guidebook and do a little research to how to actually properly use them. So
yes, they are powerful medicine. They really are. I mean, it's interesting. They're kind of a paradox in a lot of ways, because in a lot of ways they are safe. They're definitely safer than medicine, like pharmaceutical grade medicine and over the counter medicine. However, they can be as powerful. So it's something to be really mindful of when you're using oils. I have 2 books on oils. My first book was called The Smart Mom's Guide to Essential Oils. And it's not just for moms. It's just the publishing team wanted to niche it down, but I'm not a mom yet. And I use it all the time. And that has a lot of safety guidelines and a lot of usage guidelines, even for age groups, in case you wanted to use them on toddlers or children or, whatever age group you wanted to use them. And then clearly the hormone book was really built for women. And, I'm really mindful about dilutions and blending and just, and also just listening to your body and figuring out what's working right for you.
for sure. Yeah. And I know, for example, the Essential Oils Hormone Solution is a great handbook for that. So, one last question that I like to ask everyone on the podcast is, if there's just one tip or piece of advice you could leave our listeners with to live a happier and healthier life, what would that be?
Mm. Ooh, that is such a great, great question. I think really what it comes down to is just the thing that I love to tell women all the time is that they are ripe for healing miracles and that they deserve to get well. And that's the thing, is that once we really get to that place where we realize that we deserve it all, we deserve to take care of our bodies, we deserve to put ourselves first, so that once we're able to take care of us, we're able to really show up in the world in a bigger space. It's so hard to serve people when we don't feel good. It's so hard to serve people when we're completely burned out. If anything, I would say that when I've been burned out, it's probably been my most selfish time, because I just didn't have energy for anything else. So I know it seems so backwards to think, do us before we take care of others, but that's really going to be the way that we shine and we show up in the world in such a big way.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing all your tips and wisdom today. For anyone who's interested, you can check out her latest book. It's called The Essential Oils Hormone Solution. It's available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. You could also check out her website at drmariza.com, and that's Mariza.